It is Saturday, and we're here again with our live stream. So thank you for joining us. And this is part one of our series under the 5 T's, which is all about transformation through transparency, truth, and trust. My name is Brian, and so you can see Bridget and I, here we are. We're here with you live, and we're going to get into it today. We've got a fantastic session planned for us, and we actually have a special guest that's also going to be joining us. And today we're going to be focused in on a very unique topic. And this is something that Bridget really brought to the table and wanted to set as a foundation under the 5 T's. And that's talking about authenticity, because I think a lot of all of what we want to talk about when you talk about your being transparent, living in your truth, and also gaining or giving trust, a lot of that has to do with really first understanding truly who you are from an authenticity standpoint and starting to be able to be comfortable and live your life from that standpoint. Bridget, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I am doing great. I am so excited about the 5T series. I'm double excited about today, talking about being authentic. And actually, I'm in the audacity to become authentic. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a great day. And as I said, we do have a special guest host joining us, and she's going to join us here in a moment. So, Bridget, let's dive into it just a little bit deeper. We're going to start first and foremost just by kind of giving you an introduction to what we see the important things are when we talk about what is audacity and how that then ties to you being an authentic person. So let me give you some definitions on that. So we're starting off talking here, obviously, about audacity. What does that mean? So just a quick definition at a high level. Basically, a willingness to let your behaviors be bold, daring, fearless, right? So truly stepping out there, standing out there and representing who you truly are, what you truly believe in, and being comfortable and being okay with that, having the audacity to do that. How does that then feed into authenticity? Authenticity, or being authentic from a description standpoint, is, uh, you know, you are undisputed in character. You're genuine, you're real, you're an original, you being true, especially being true to yourself. And that's all based in fact. It's actual, it's reliable, and it's also trustworthy. Bridget, what do you want to add on top of any of that we just talked about?
And I will say personally, I live by these two words right now. If I wanted to describe how I live my life, and it has not always been this way, it's an internal process. And it wasn't really favorable either. And we'll talk about that later. But it's very important, actually, in being your true self. You have to take some bold steps. You have
Mhm.
to take some bold steps.
Absolutely, you do. So that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to really dive deeper into helping you understand having the audacity to be your authentic self, what that looks like. Uh, and it's again, it's going to be a very dynamic day today. So let's get into it. Well, my name is Brian. I am the founder of the VOV Network, and I'm joined today by my co-host Bridget. And lucky enough for me today to actually have two lovely lady co-hosts joining me. So, Bridget, how about you introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, I'm Bridgit Kinney. I am the founder and director of Building Bridges Outreach and Mentor Program and Beautiful Girls. I am happy to be here, and I am so excited about our guest, our other co-host. I have known her for quite a while. She's been monumental in the startup of my organization. So, Tracina, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, Brian. Hi, Bridget. I am
Good morning.
Tracina Jones. I'm the founder of Halo Foundation. And I met Bridget in Texas, but I am currently in Indiana. I came here to do full time ministry and just found myself connecting more and more to this community. But I am loving the opportunity to be here with y'all today, especially on the topic of being authentic. I've heard a lot of feedback on who people see me as. And
Mhm.
so we'll dive into some of that today. And I'm going to love sharing some of what I've heard people say about me and being authentic and what I think about. being authentic as myself.
Welcome,
Excellent.
welcome, welcome.
Well, yes, definitely welcome. And we're looking forward to this being a very session is going to be very interesting, but also we want it to be very interactive. So there's three of us here. Any of you who are joining us online, definitely please share your comments and your thoughts in the chat. We look forward to that, and we will be monitoring that and responding to any questions or comments that you do happen to have in the chat session. So we greatly appreciate that as well. Let's get into it. I'm going to bring in the presentation again. And Bridget, if you'll kind of pick up where I left off there.
Absolutely. Authenticity. Why is it important? So I got this quote from Arthur Brene Brown. She's, widely renowned author, and it's from her book, Gifts of Imperfection. And she said, "Oh, the audacity of authenticity. You're going to confuse, piss off, and terrify lots of people, including yourself. So we must learn to own our truth through boldness, courage, and always stand up for our personal beliefs and values." And I love this quote. The concept of being authentic, but not only that, the audacity to do so. Because when we come off on our authentic self, a lot of people were like, "Well, she got her nerve," the audacity to tell me that, or the audacity to tell me your truth, right? And people are taken aback about that, right? But we have to own that. We have to own that. And it is a process, as I've said before, and not a favorable one, as I said before. But oh my God, you learn about yourself first. Mm-hmm. And then, surprisingly, you learn about the circle around you as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I want to go add something on top of that, Bridget. One of the things that always comes to mind when I talk about authenticity and being authentic to yourself has to do with people pleasing. And one of our previous episodes, I think there were 3 or 4 of us on that particular session, and the topic of people pleasing came up, and like everybody's hand kind of went, "Yeah, I can. I'm in a recovery program for that, right?" And that's, I think, one of the biggest pieces that drives a lot of holding back on what you choose to withhold or truly not stand for. And then you're not actually being authentic or putting your true face out to the world. And that's really what we want to get into today, is helping you, show you some ways and some different things so you can start to move towards being comfortable, just owning it. And that word is underlined here. You have to own your truths, and that's really what's important about this.
Yes, and I just want to say this before, Tracina, because I know you have plenty to say. As you said, it's not going to be, people are going to be pissed off, and the audacity for you to own your truth. And I mean, it's a boldness about it, but it takes a lot of, and we've talked about this over and over again, self-awareness. And then you start not wanting, and I'm a recovering people pleaser as well. And so, you get to a point where you say, "No, I don't like that," or "No, I don't want to go there." Just simple things like that. "No, I don't want to go there. I never really like to go there." Or "No, I'm not going to do it that way. I think what I'm going to start doing is doing it this way." And those are simple statements, but to people that have been around you and you try to please your whole life, basically, they won't get it at first, and they're going to be really mad as well. Tracina, did you want to have something you want to say?
No, they're not going to be mad. As Brene Brown said, they're going to be pissed off. And, to be honest, I've experienced that, because when you have been a people pleaser, when you have found yourself, kind of being pushed to the side so you can put everybody else before you, that's exactly what happens when you start to show up as your authentic self. They're like, I heard Oprah say this. She said, most people, when you think of audacity, they're like, who does she think she is? When you show up as your authentic self, people will wonder who she thinks she is. And the thing that I absolutely love about authenticity is you get to show up as yourself, but you have to also choose to show up as yourself. And when I decided I was no longer going to be a people pleaser, I decided I'm going to show up as myself. And I
Mhm.
don't want your permission. I don't need your permission. And I'm not going to ask you for your permission. That
Mm.
took me a long time. I think I was in my late 30s
Mhm.
and I'll be 49 this year. So it took me a while. And one of the things that I've learned now as a recovering people pleaser is in my being authentic, I have learned how to exercise my no
No
so
Mm.
is
that I
babe.
can flex my yes in
Mm.
those things that I want to do. I'm no longer putting anybody else before me
Mhm.
and what it is I desire. So that's kind of what I see as being authentic and just having the audacity to say, this is who I am. It's not a love it or leave it, but it's this is who I am. I'm very open to people accepting my authenticity and the audacity for me to show up as myself. And I just hope that they're okay with that. And if you are a recovering people pleaser or you need to get on that bandwagon, hopefully seeing other people live in their authenticity allows you to say, I want to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that too because the power of no, and Bridget and I've talked about this before and why that is important.
Mhm.
Because as a people pleaser, you're opening yourself up, trying to give and be and support, and but then
Yeah.
you kind of get lost in all of that because you're getting
Yeah.
pulled, pushed and pulled in so many different directions and get overwhelming to you. uh, and but you have this fear of saying no because you don't want to upset people, and you don't want to be judged in the wrong way, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's you really you to show up as your best self, which is what we talk about a lot. You have to care for yourself, and that's one of the first places that you start is to make sure that you are feeling whole. You're not feeling overwhelmed. You're not stressed to where you're just pulling your hair out. And so recapturing yourself, recapturing your emotions, and being able to reel those things back in. And most of that does start with the ability to just go, No, I cannot." So that's a good foundational place to start.
And I did, and we've talked about it before, Brian and I, but Tristina and I made it pretty comical, but no is Bay to me. I mean, because Bay, he or she comforts you, are supposed to comfort you and helps you relax and makes you feel good about what's going on. No does that too.
Yeah.
No does
Yeah.
that too.
Yes, it does.
So no to me is Bay. I'm gonna get a T-shirt printed out with that on there and wear it
Yeah.
around my kids. No, no is Bay right now.
Absolutely. And I want to just add one thing on that. I equate no, I call it the power of no, or in a way, it's self empowerment, right? If you want to
Mhm.
empower yourself, if you want to recapture your empowerment, the best way to do that is by using the word no, and understanding where those borders and having those boundaries and standing up for those things in your life. And that will be so empowering for you as you move forward.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So let's bring the presentation back in and let's talk a little bit more about what an authentic life looks like, right? Bridget, you want to cover this? You want me to cover this?
You can go ahead and cover this.
All right. So, talking about an authentic life, I mean, obviously, one of the biggest pieces when you start to be authentic, you're opening yourself up. It's like layers to an onion, right? You're becoming
Mhm.
more vulnerable. So, being vulnerable enough to, open yourself, to put yourself out there, to confront the truths that are out there, all of those things that come out in your life that are going to be explored, and there's some self exploration that needs to happen as you go through this journey about truly understanding what your truths are. And in our previous session, if you missed it, definitely go back and take a look. When we're talking about the 5 T's and the different parts of transparency, truth, and trust, when we were specifically talking about truth, we talked about your truth and the truth, which even could be one topic. There could be two different perspectives on what that looks like.
Mhm.
So we're
That's
really
right.
starting to understand what it is and what the differences are with that, are the
Right.
important pieces of the self exploration as you go through that. So that's the first bullet point. Second thing here talks about letting go of an idea of who you are or what others should be. So, sometimes we get so hooked on feeling like we've got to fit this certain mold. That's that old saying about being in the box or getting out of the box, or whatever term you want to look at, however you want to look at that. So, understanding that there is no box, first and foremost, just get that whole concept out of your head that you're not trying to get into one, you're not trying to get out of one. There is no box. There are no limitations from that standpoint. So just let that idea go. Stop trying to either be what you think you should be because other people want you to be that way, or even think about what you think other people should be, because now
Mhm.
you're placing that same judgment in the
Mhm.
opposite direction. I see some heads
Absolutely.
nodding. Anybody want to chime in on any of that?
I would say the letting go part is, I highlighted that, the letting go of the idea, and that is extremely hard. It takes some work, right? Because you're used to
Mhm.
being, or you're, if you are or were a people pleaser, your goal, the end, was to be who you are and other people thought you think you should be, right? So that's what you've been working on all this time. So now when you start to study this and become more self-aware, you want to display this authentic person that you are. You gotta change your whole mindset now, and your
Yeah.
goals are going to change as well.
Hmm.
So the letting go is extremely, is doable, but it's extremely hard. Especially letting go of the idea that of what others thought you should be. So they're gonna portray those thoughts onto you, of course, as you go through this life journey. And so that's what you're working on. Oh yeah, you're right. I do well in that. I should be that. And so
Hmm.
now you're on this journey to what other people think, and then
Mhm.
it's a fear in that as well. And we'll talk about that later, because now you're scared because you really don't want to be this person or do this thing, but you're
Yeah.
trying so hard because you're pleasing other people. So to let go of that is very hard. And I underline vulnerable as well, because that ties into the letting go, opening yourself up to
Hmm.
confront your truth. um you're having to deal with self now, and that is, I found it was eye-opening within itself, right? And so that is my take on that. Tristina, you have anything you want to input?
Yes, I wrote down when Bryan said, there is no box, so let's get rid of the box.
Yeah.
And I said, there is no box of limitations. And I think when we're looking at being our authentic selves, when you put people in a box, whether it's yourself or others, you're limiting them. They
Hmm.
Yes.
can't show up sometimes as their authentic selves. And
Hmm.
so, what I've learned, especially in ministry, is you just accept people the way they show up. We do not have to bring any ideas of who we think people should be, who we want them to be, because we have, in essence, put them in a box, and we have limited them to the box that we put them in and what we think they should fit, or how they should fit in that box. So that's what I
Hmm.
wrote. But I want to talk about real quick, the ability to stand in your truth and being authentic. Years ago, I heard Susie Orman. I've been on this journey of being debt free for a long time. And I heard her in one of her conferences say, stand in your truth. When she said that, while I was listening to her to help me in my finances, that applied to so many areas of my life. I really believe that when I heard her say that, it just set me on a different course,
Hmm.
because I said, what is my truth in my marriage? What is my truth in my relationship with my children? What is my truth in just who I am when I show up in the world? So when I heard her say, stand in your truth, it unlocked something on the
Mhm.
inside of me that I was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, that I
Yes.
can only stand in my truth. I can't give anybody else anything that I don't have. So I owned everything about where I was at the present time. And that just stayed with me all these years. And it helps me to be my authentic self, to stand in my truth, whatever that may be, in whatever season of life I'm in, whatever relationship or connection that I've made. I have to stand in my truth.
And I
Absolutely.
love the part I caught all of it, but the part I held on to was owning your part in where you were at and where you are at this time.
Mhm.
We talked about that in the prior podcast about your truth, owning your part that you played in this. Because oftentimes we like to blame our environment or our family
Mhm.
or how we grew up, or the other person in the relationship, we're seldom likely to own our part in that. And so, yes, Mabel, stand in your truth, meaning I had a part in this. So where I am right now, I need to own up to that. And you
Hmm.
can move forward when you do that. That's
Hmm.
a great point, Justina. That's a
Hmm.
great point.
Yeah. It it really is a great point, and I think one of the things that we get caught up in when that starts to happen is we start to point the finger. It's their
Yeah.
fault. It's the world's fault.
Yeah.
It's gas is $10 a gallon fault. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever is going on, right?
Yeah.
There's always a way to point out. But I always look at this from an authenticity standpoint to say it all starts within, and that's one of
Hmm.
the things that I often preach about is what we're talking about, this transformation that's going to happen, all of that. It really is all about self realization, right? So the truths within yourself, the goods and the bad, because we're not
Yes.
going to sit here
Yep.
and say it's all going to be sunshine and roses, right? There are going to be some parts that, are going to be more challenging to deal with, but that's all part of the journey. That's all part of the growth and acceptance that needs to happen for you to truly show up as your best self and continue to be authentic to yourself as you go forward
Right.
as well.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna bring the presentation back in, and then we will finish up the last couple of bullet points that are on here. But it is a very interesting journey. Abort thoughts of perfectionism, and again, in a previous session, that was one of those times when my hand creeped up when you talk about feeling like a wanting to be a perfectionist or having perfectionism. Uh, because if you come from that place, you've already kind of lost the war, not just the battle, but the war. Because
Mhm.
we just recently did a session a few weeks ago, Bridget and I did, and the specific title is, perfection does not exist, and
Mhm.
it doesn't. So you will never achieve true perfection. So if that's what you're striving towards, you're almost kind of defeating yourself out of the gate. And so starting to be able to understand and accept the fact that yes, you absolutely want to be the best you can be, but will that on that journey will you ever reach that point of true perfection? That's not a realistic thing to expect. So that's one piece, and I'll finish the last one, and then we'll share some more with the group here. Um, accept what is, and then let that be the motivation for what can be. So, and basically what that means is, and that's also part of the authenticity piece, wherever you are, and Tristina mentioned a minute ago about finances, right? And maybe you are somewhere with that you don't think you should be, and but you have to accept that and say,
Mhm.
okay, I'm here. This is not where I want to be. What is it I do want for myself? And then use that as your truth, accepting that, and then start along that journey. But if you're going to deny and fight that this is where I am, then now you've already kind of defeated the purpose again. Because until you have some acceptance, it's really hard to move forward with it.
Absolutely. And that's almost like a light bulb moment. Just accept where you are. Accept that, okay, this is where I am. Whether it be your your accountability or someone else's, it was whose ever fault it
Mhm.
was. You're here now. So let's just start right here. And that's your motivation of what can be. And that's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing, right? Because now you know where there's a starting point. Because sometimes we get lost in all the things that are going on and we don't even know where to start.
Mhm.
Because we haven't taken responsibility. So when you accept where we are right now, this is where we are, this is where I am, then we can move on and start planning the goals of what can be. And thank you, Kim, for giving yourself for the part that you played in this situation. Absolutely, absolutely. We have to move forward, and we can't accept what is and start to move forward on what can be until we do have that forgiveness, until we do have those acceptance. We cannot
Mhm.
move further along the line. And so you're right, Mabel. It does start within.
Mhm.
Absolutely, it does start within. I'm sure,
Mhm.
Cindy, you had something that you want to say.
Yes, I want to go back to this aborting thoughts of perfectionism.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes what we miss, and I believe I was on that podcast with you guys, because I remember touching on this, that perfectionism, as Brian said, there's no such thing as doing anything perfectly or
Mhm.
us being perfect.
Mhm.
But what I shared is there is this place where it may look to others as perfectionism or trying to be perfect, but I said there is this thing called excellence. And what
Absolutely.
excellence does is says, I'm going to show up as my best self and give you my
Absolutely.
best that I have to give, and whatever that is. And
Right.
so when you are truly an authentic person and you have the audacity to show up and pursue excellence, it's going to look to some people like perfection.
Mhm.
Ain't nobody that good. You know what I'm
Anybody
saying?
that happy, you know?
Yes. Oh
Right?
my goodness. I remember when I first started, went back to work. I was going through the divorce. I hadn't divorced yet. And I accepted a position on the campus, and I was in ISS. I was filling in for a teacher that had went over to Romania. And I remember this teacher told me that she said, "You won't have that smile on your face at the end of the day." And I thought, really?
Mm.
So all through the time that I was in the classroom, and I left ISS and actually became a teacher on that campus, that's just who I am. I keep a smile on my face, and it
Mhm.
doesn't have anything to do with the externals, right? Because I'm going through a divorce. I'm in a ISS classroom with kids that teachers are like, I can't handle him, you deal with him, but kept a smile on my face. And I think sometimes when we see that in people, we are always apt to judge and be
Mhm.
critical instead of
Mhm.
saying, okay, whatever it is you got,
I
I
want
want
some,
to
yeah,
know a
I
little.
want some too.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
some
You
of
know,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So what I learned is that, and Vince Lombardi has this quote, and it says um, that you can't reach perfection, but you can chase excellence, something to
Mhm.
that nature. And
Mhm.
I have just decided that who I am, showing up as my authentic self, I want to be excellent in all that I do. I want to be excellent in the way that I show up as a woman. And what I have decided that is for me, culture does not tell me what a woman is supposed to look like, what she's
Right.
supposed to do, and how she's supposed to behave. A lot of that actually is built in my desire, my decision to walk with God.
Mhm.
I want excellence to show up in how I parent my children. It's not about
Mhm.
being perfect, but it is about having a set of principles that guides me into what I do. And so that audacity to show up and be excellent in all that you do, people don't understand that sometimes, and
Mm-mm.
that's where they get pissed off, they get mad, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
because
Those haters.
actually what you're doing is showing them that it's possible.
It's possible. Right.
And
Mhm.
what that requires of them is, do I really want to say it can't be done when I see somebody doing it? Do I really want to be challenged to step it up a level? And so I think that's why I love that quote by Brene Brown, because y'all, I have been in some places where the way people have handled me because I dared to show up as myself is they were pissed off.
Mhm.
They did
Mhm.
not like it. And that has hurt me because I'm very compassionate, uh, not as a people pleaser, but I do know how, as the scripture says, to prefer others than yourself. I know how
Mhm.
to do that. So when I show up as my authentic self and people don't receive that, it's tough. It is hard. And there were times I would walk away, and this is unfortunate, from family. I would be in tears.
Yeah.
I would be hurt because they didn't accept the way I showed up, or they wanted me to be who they wanted me to be. And so learning how to be my authentic self and stand in my truth in my late 30s has really been a blessing to me, because now as I go into my 40s and I'm almost 50, um, this life cannot be lived based on what other people think you should be doing. The
Absolutely.
Definitely.
audacity of that is you have to say, no, I get to choose me in the way that I show up. And I hope you will be okay with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know
Yeah.
Yeah.
that my experience is a little different because when I was younger, I was just like this, right? And I mean, very bold. Just I'm just there. Um, Through life, I think experiences kind of changed me where I was a
Mhm.
little bit more docile, maybe a little bit more um, quiet, if that's a good word for it. And so when I begin this self-awareness journey and I became authentic in my truth, people that knew me then would say, well, it's good to have you back, right? Basically,
Oh, wow.
because
Yeah.
this is who you
Yeah.
were before, and you just
Yeah.
changed, and now you're changing back. People that didn't know me through, in my younger years would be like, okay, she's changing. What's going on with her? I can't believe she's, and who is she coming in here bringing sunshine?
Yeah.
Right, and she must think she's.
Audacity.
Um, so it was a different experience for me, and where I was like this before, and I just looked my experiences and life just kind of dimmed my light, and so just during that journey, just becoming aware who I am and who I always was meant to be. Now I'm back into my authentic self, and yeah, it does take some boldness because people will judge you, and I have walked away not from family, but I have walked away from peers, co-workers, so to speak, feeling like, well, in my head, what did I say?
Yeah.
Or did I say something? Or am I too bright? And I'll talk about that later. Am I shining too bright? Like, am I covering over other people and making them dark? Oh, that's a thing. We can talk about that a whole session.
Yes.
But yeah, so that absolutely. So the self-awareness is very critical. It is very critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that quote here about self-awareness as a leader is important because that's how you lead. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does you stand in your truth as a leader, and if you're not self-aware to understand how that impacts others and the people around you, that can be very detrimental to you as a leader. So this is a
Yes.
good transition, Tristina. Thank you for what you just shared, because this
Yes.
brings us to the struggle, and this is really what we want to talk about next. And
Yeah.
Bridget, you want to cover that for
Yeah.
us?
The struggle. And so these are some of the concepts that you may face coming into your authentic self, leading an authentic life. We may feel our safety will be compromised by being vulnerable. We fear that people will try to attack us verbally, or they'll try to attack us with what we say to them and bring that back on us. Remember when you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And bring our past back up, and so then we no longer feel safe being our authentic self in that circle. The fear of not being accepted or understood the same way. We're not people. We're recovering people pleasers, but we do want people to like us, so to speak. It would be insane for me to say I don't care who likes me, because but you do care.
Yeah.
You do care. And so we have a fear of not being accepted or understood. The people around us may struggle to make sense of how and why we are changing. And absolutely. And our change behavior may force others to question their own authenticity. And that is the part I love.
Yeah.
That's so thought-provoking, because our light may then shine on others, and they may see the darkness in them, or they may now they're forced to show up as their authentic self. We start to uncover other people's things, because we're standing in our authentic self. And so I use an example when I first started doing my mentoring program for teen girls, and I was kind of really wondering, why parents look like parents would be all in on this, right? It should be thousands of girls, in the community, because it's so many that need it. And so someone brought to my attention, well, sometimes empowering teen girls forces parents to become then empowered themselves. And some of them are very settled where they are, especially in different communities, right? In different environments. They're really settled where they are. And so you empowering their teen may force them to come out, do away with the box. If your teen girl comes home and she has all these bright ideas about how the household can benefit, then that forces a parent to then become empowered. And so your light, your changed behavior, your authentic light now shines on other people, and they're forced to do it. So of course there's going to be a struggle, because they're used to doing it this way. Now you're trying to change things. We've been doing it this way. Now you got a little education. Now you're doing this, you're got this organization. Now you want to do this. You want to change lives. Okay. So people will come at you like that. And so it will force others to question their own. And that's not always a bad thing if you really start becoming self-aware. It's not a bad thing to have people around you that are changing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I had a quote: if your circle, if you're the smartest person in the circle, you need to find another circle, or if
Sure.
nobody is changing in that circle, now you're not in a circle, you're in a cage.
There you go. Oof.
That's my pass the plate. Bryan, you have anything you want to say?
Well, I wanted that last piece you brought about the circle, right? And one of the things that does come up a lot, especially with the struggle, is, as you said, people are going to start to come at you at different ways just because
Yeah.
who are you? What's this different person? This is not who you've been. Where's all this change coming from? So you run into all these roadblocks. And one of the things that you will learn is that your peer group might need to change.
Mm.
And it's another
Wow.
thing that we talked about in the past. Unfortunately, for you to truly be authentic to yourself, to live in your truths and all those different things, you may have to leave some people behind, quote unquote.
Wow.
And that's an unfortunate part of the journey. But there is some to be able to elevate yourself. You may need to look at having a different peer group to start to move yourself up. Because as Bridget mentioned, and I love the analogy of it's almost like now all of a sudden being in a cage because you are trapped in a place where you no longer want to be based on wanting to self evolve, have some self realization, some self growth and to be able to do that, it's better to be in an environment that supports that and puts water on it, sees it grow, sees it blossom.
Yeah.
One quote that I have
Yeah.
heard recently basically says, environment will always conquer will. So no matter how strong your will is,
Mm.
the environment that
Wow.
you're in will always conquer that. So that's a very
Mhm.
important thing to note as you take this journey.
Yes, definitely, Tristina.
I love that quote. That was good.
Yeah.
I want to just touch a little bit on the fear of not being accepted, because I think sometimes that is the difficulty in showing up as your authentic self. Because
Mhm.
as Bridget pointed out, we want to be in connection with others. We want to be accepted. And I think Brene Brown talks a lot about belonging. And when people don't accept you, you don't feel like you belong. And one of the reasons why it is so important for me to just accept people the way they show up is because number one, I want them to feel that they belong.
Mhm.
Because if you feel like you belong, you can just show up as yourself,
Mhm.
right? You don't have to put on any pretense of what I think they want. And knowing that for myself, walking through some of those same things. I remember this was when we were in Nacogdoches, Bridget. One of my, she's a business coach. And one of the things she told me, she said, whenever I saw you and whenever you would speak, I could tell you didn't belong here.
Mhm.
And she wasn't saying that in a bad way. She was just saying, it's time for you to grow. It is
Mhm.
time for you to move to another place where who you are and what you bring and the things that you are doing can be accepted. And I said, wow, I never thought about that, because when you don't have people who accept you for who you are when you show up, and it's more criticism than it is encouraging and support, then you don't feel like you belong and you just get stuck and settled in that place. But
Yep.
once you spoke those words to me, even Bridget said the same thing. I've had people in my circle who see beyond, right? And they're encouraging that. So I didn't have to have fear anymore that I wasn't going to be accepted, because I realized I'm going to outgrow some places. And unfortunately, people are connected to the places we're in, and you're going to outgrow people just by the default of that place no longer supports who you are and who you're becoming.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
so, those who are on this journey of self discovery and who am I and how do I walk in that level of authenticity, just know that you're going to outgrow some places. And that by nature means you're going to leave some of the people that you were connected to in that place as you're growing, and that's okay.
It
Don't
is.
don't abort the process of walking in your authenticity to stay comfortable in places where uh, you're settling for. No, even my transition from Texas, moving here to Indiana, required that I own my self discovery and where God was taking me and where He was leading me, and knowing that you had outgrown that place. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean the people are bad. I think I need to say that so people don't get the wrong idea.
Right.
But it's just, if we are on this journey of growth and maturity, especially as we walk in different seasons of life, and for me, it's walking with God, you're going to outgrow those places. That's not a
Mhm.
bad place. The people are not bad. It's just that's where you're headed on your journey, and being your most authentic self in that place and the place where you're going helps you to keep growing and moving to where it is you're headed.
And I'll so many thoughts came in my head as you were talking. Two things. I, as a mentor for teen girls going into young adulthood, that is one thing that I stress upon them, especially coming, and my mentees are from a small town.
Mhm.
It's nothing wrong with the small town. Don't mistake me saying I want you to branch out as being Nacogdoches is bad. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're going to outgrow that environment, that community, those people, and that's okay. So don't try to hold on to them
Yeah.
and abort your growth.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, because if, and then the next second thing, if it was meant, if that circle or those friends or that whatever it is was meant to be consistent or lifetime, it will come back around.
They will
Christina and I
find
haven't
you.
saw each other in years, and but our connection was our authentic selves and our
Yep.
authenticity, and we knew that
Yep.
when we first met. And we hadn't talked to each other for a while because we both had to go and move on into our separate journeys, right? And then it came back full circle, and now we're here. So that's just evidence that if that friendship or that involvement, however it may be, is meant to be, it'll come back around. But your
Yeah.
growth is more important. Your self awareness is more important. Your showing up as your best self
Yeah.
is more important. And so that is what I teach my girls. So great point, Tracine. I'm glad you said what you said. Great point.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I want to jump in there, Bridget, too, because um, just as you just said about how you explain to your girls, they're gonna grow, they're gonna evolve, and probably outgrow that community or that circle that they've become
Mhm.
used to. And one of the things to definitely instill in them is to say, that's not a bad thing. A, but B, it's okay. Now you can actually become the beacon that
Mm-hmm.
others can strive
Yeah.
to come
Yeah.
after, right?
Yes,
So
Yeah.
absolutely.
and honor that and be that, right? And
Yeah.
wrap yourself in kind of that blanket of, I can be the beacon, I can be the guiding light. Hey, you guys should follow me versus the
Absolutely.
other way around. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Absolutely.
throw that on top of it.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So I think that brings us to our final page, and let's bring this in. Let's talk about this. So we've talked so far about what being authentic to yourself is all about. That's from a standpoint of, your truths and living in that, being true to yourself, being true to others around you. That there is no box. So there's no being in it or out of it. The box just doesn't exist. We've gone through all of those different parts and pieces. We've talked about how that's going to upset some people, and they're going to come back at you in various ways. So there's going to be some struggle to this whole process. But at the end of it, there is a prize. And Bridget, you want to talk about what the prize is?
So when we are our true, authentic selves, we can love ourselves for our strengths, we can accept our vulnerabilities, and we can acknowledge our worth. And not just introduce ourselves by our career or our accolades.
Yes.
And we talked about that before. And so when we are our true authentic selves, then we know our worth. Then we introduce ourselves as our true selves, who we are, our best selves, and not just what we do for a living, what
Yeah.
the accolades we've won or accomplished. And so to me, that is the prize. To me, that is
Yes.
the prize of becoming your authentic selves and being, the audacity to do that, having the audacity to do that. Like we said all through the session, is it takes some boldness. It takes some courage. You have to be fearless, and you have to be ready to accept some truths about yourself, to yourself, not just others. You have to start, like Bryan said, within first. You have
Mhm.
to start within first. So it's an internal thing. And then those things that you identify internally you can then express those outwardly to the people in your circle. And just
Absolutely.
like you say, they don't have to, you don't have to ask for permission. Like Tristina said, you don't have to ask for permission for them to accept you. It is what it is. And then meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Meet people where they are. If they don't accept it, this is who I am. It's not a compromise, right? And so you definitely want to meet people where they are. And so that's the prize of this whole journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christina,
Christina,
you have
Yeah, I would just say, the prize for me personally and being able to walk in my authenticity has been finding a sense of comfort and courage, because I didn't have any level of peace with trying to people please, trying to show up as who people thought I should be. And so it's not a place of getting comfortable, but you can find comfort in that it's okay to be me. I don't have to show up as anybody else. And the reality is, there ain't nobody else like me anyway.
It's not. It's not.
And why would I rob the world of who I am and who God has created me to be? So, and then the courage that it has taken to walk this out. A big thing that for me was fearing the loss of people, showing up as yourself. But losing some people has showed me what I need to start valuing most important anyway. And I didn't lose them because I left their life. They left my life. And so I started to look in a different direction instead of saying it was something wrong with me. So now I value this place of being authentic and having the audacity to show up as me. I want to share something real quick because I think it's important. And I won't get into the whole issue behind it, but sometimes as women, it's hard for us to show up as our authentic selves in a place where men normally lead and rule. It's hard in marriage. Sometimes we're told men are the head and you're supposed to follow and all this. So how do you show up as a woman in who God has created you as a woman and still be your authentic self? Because I didn't always find encouragement in that place or acceptance of who I was. And then in business, working with men who predominantly or most of the time they hold positions of authority. I remember I had a person, we had the same title, and we were having a conversation and asked me, well, who do you think you are? You need to remember who you're talking to. And I knew at that moment, it wasn't about our title because we had the same title, but it was about the place of authority that they thought they had over me. And this conversation really is so deep and so important because we really can't show up as our authentic selves in a world that has placed some others as more valuable than others. And as women, we have been devalued in many sense. So this has been a journey for me on so many different levels of how to be my true authentic self. God didn't place me in the earth as a man. He placed me in the earth as a woman, and I'm going to own it. All of it. And so, that is the part that I have loved absolutely about being authentic. That's the prize. Matter of fact, I'm the prize.
I love it. Yes. I love it. Yes.
And that's just for me, right? That doesn't come to say anything about that's just for me. And I have had to walk that out. And I see in others, someone made a comment, try managing men from various diverse cultures. It's a whole other issue. Yes, it really is.
Yeah, we could do this for hours, like the song says.
Yes. But I'll just finish by saying that, this is just about taking true ownership and not needing anyone else's permission to show up as me. I think that at the heart of being your authentic self is what really is the prize, that, what, I get to show up. I don't need anybody's permission, and it's going to look different. And in a culture where, we support same and we encourage same, when people are different in their authenticity, in their authentic selves, we don't know what to do with that sometimes.
Mhm.
So find out where your prize is in being authentic and just own it.
Yep.
Absolutely own it.
Yep.
I
I
will say
agree.
that this new generation, I've learned over the pandemic that we went through, they've come up with some innovative ways to as of making money in careers that
Mhm.
never our generation and then even the one after ours did not come up with. So I can really say just by talking with a lot of young adults now that they're showing up authentic.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Yep.
they're very innovative, and they don't do the regular 9 to 5s anymore, and they can't hold them into
Mm-mm.
that box anymore. And so I
Yeah.
think it's just the older generations that have become, so stagnant and so combative in terms of showing up as your best self. And those are the people that are saying, who does he think he is?
Mhm. Yeah.
Now he's trying to be this, and now she's trying to be this. And so, yeah, it does. You have to really look at yourself in the circle and then see how they respond to you.
Mhm.
I tend to think that I am the sum of all of my experiences, and I am made up of all the people that I surround myself with.
Yeah.
Right? And
Mhm.
so you can see yourself in a lot of people. You may want to say, I'm not like them, but if you spend a lot of time with them, it is something that you have. It's some commonality somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to really identify, just not just inwardly, but outwardly as well, when you start to do this authentic journey. And another thing I want to say is the prize. I love when you say you are the prize, because you are, and we are the prize. And a lot of people don't see that, and you won't see it at first too, because you're changing into this person that you've
Yeah.
always wanted to be, right? And so
Yeah.
then you're always in your head. I know I am. I'm not sure about anybody else. I'm in my head. Should I have said that? And I come off as my authentic self. Sometimes I play back the response and, okay, well, what did I say? And then what did they say? And then what did I say? So how did they come off mad? Like, what was it? I had to stop doing that. I had
Yeah.
to stop playing that back in my head, because now
Yeah.
I'm being my authentic self. I'm showing up as my best self. I know that I am, so I have to stop doing that, because that's still a small form of people pleasing.
People pleasing.
It's just
Yeah.
mentally, you're right. It's just mentally doing that. So
Yeah.
yes, we are the prize when we show up as our true authentic selves. We can love our strengths and not just what we do for a living, and not just our career, because we can get caught up in that, and we start
Mhm.
living, not living to a life, but just existing. And so being our authentic self changes like your whole world around you. I guess
Yeah.
basically what I'm trying to say. And so yes, I love the way you said we are the prize.
Yep.
I'm gonna write that and put that on a t-shirt.
I want to jump in there too, Bridget, because and you kind of just alluded to, you are the prize, right? And getting to that and understanding that. So if you go back here, this that last line says, knowing your worth, right? And I think that's where getting to the understanding of you
Mhm.
being the prize kind of all lies in that area. Until you can get to a point in your life where you're truly comfortable with your worth, who you are, know what you're about, what you stand for, all of that is tied into you having that realization, that comfort that I am the prize. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how they judge me or what they think about me.
Yeah.
Uh, the other piece I want to jump in on to when we talk about that is we just did a session a few weeks ago talking about comparing your life, right? And or basically stop comparing your life, right? Because that's
Yeah.
another piece of this that can really undercut all of the work that you may do to try to be your authentic self. Because if you start looking over the fence, what's happening in their backyard,
Mhm.
and that's, oh, I need to do this, or I
Yeah.
should do that, or I really like this. Now you're actually doing things that are of value to other people, not truly of value to
Yeah.
you, because you're just doing it from a comparison basis to
Yeah.
keep up with the Joneses per se. And as
Right.
I said in that particular video, what happens is you may attain it. All right. You may get that same thing, but you're not
Mhm.
going to be satisfied with it
Yeah.
because it's not truly what was in you to begin with. It doesn't resonate with what's happening inside your soul. And
Yeah.
that's why it all starts with what's really going on inside of you.
That's
That's
right.
the key place to look. And if you're going to put forth the effort, if you're going to try to make a difference in your life, if you're going to make some changes, do it based on what's inside of you and let that come out. Don't take what's out in the
Right.
world and try to bring that in, because that's not going to satisfy you.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's bring it home then. This is the question of the day. And basically, it's a takeaway. So we're not saying we need to answer this question today, per se. We will give some examples. But the question is, I am not true to myself when I blank. Ladies, any thoughts, anything that you can think of that you might want to share to fill in
Um,
that blank?
I would say one, and then I'll give it some more thought. I am not true to myself when I cannot express my feelings. That's
Mm,
in a
mhm.
relationship, at work, whatever the case may be. If I feel like my feelings are not going to be validated, I am not my true
Mhm.
self. I might as well just shut down. I might as well just leave. I'm not going to be
Yes,
my true. I'm not going to be true to myself when I
yes.
cannot express my feelings.
Okay, that's
Christina,
excellent.
that's one
Yeah,
of them.
that's good. Yeah. I am not my true self when I can't show up as my authentic self. I
Mhm.
know that may sound a little wordy, but if I can't show up as me, I'm just not going to be true to me. I'm just not. I'm not going to produce at the level that I can. I'm not going to connect and interact with people at the level that I can. Um, it's very difficult for me to show up in these corporate business type meetings because most of that is always led by what's in your head and not what's in your heart. And
Mhm.
I'm very compassionate. I prefer people um, over, policy and practices. And so it has been a challenge for me to see what that looks like, especially working as a teacher in education and seeing some of those dynamics. So when I can't just show up as me, as my authentic, compassionate, loving, empathetic self, it's difficult. It's
Mhm.
difficult for me to produce and do anything else of value and worth. And so, yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Kimberly Jones said, when she's not true to herself when she stops self-loving
Hmm.
Mhm.
herself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's definitely one. When you no longer feel like you're loving your own self, or you're taking care of you, you cannot show up
Yeah,
as your true self. You cannot
yeah.
be true to yourself. I know another. I kind of piggyback on what Tristina says. I prefer people over policies.
Hmm.
And I can't show up in a boardroom meeting. I'm probably gonna say something funny. And, um, I'm serious when I need to be, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love and compassion for people,
Yes.
and in the community around me. So to stick to policy, I'm in my heart person, not in my feelings, but in my heart person.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I'm going to always express those feelings. I'm going to always express what I think is going to be best. And so I'm like you, Tracina.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah. So mine is interesting because it's kind of a dichotomy of two things. So it's one me, right, and what I have learned as far as being authentic to myself and being my true self and putting it out there is if I am in person and with the individual, or I can definitely stand and be true to myself. But if it's indirect, like a text message to someone that I don't really know or an email that needs to be sent, I do find myself rewording it and re-editing it and going back over it
Yes.
to try to what's my tone and how am I coming
Yep.
across and all of these
Yeah.
things. So that's one area for me that I do struggle in
Yeah.
from just delivering that first thought, that first
Yeah.
emotion, and letting that be what it is really
Yeah.
sometimes in that indirect communication,
Yeah.
getting into that and doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you
So that
for that.
yeah, that brings us to the end. Let's anybody have anything else they want to share or say as our final thoughts time for today.
Well, I want to thank you, Tracina. It has been more than a pleasure to engage with you about this. I want to tell our audience, stay tuned for our T series. This is just the beginning. It is going to be a great journey as we go through this transformation within ourselves and with you. And
Yeah.
thank you for your engagement as well to our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tristina. It was great having you on, and we'll do some more of these different things in the future. We look forward to that.
Sounds great.
Coming up.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Coming up in the few weeks where we coming up, we got several more things to support the 5 T's. We're really going to be focused in our next session, transitioning, talking about the authenticity piece to getting more on the truth topic. And
Mm.
truth can be very tricky. And as I said, because there
Yeah.
is your truth and there is the truth, and sometimes those things don't line up. So really understanding
Yeah.
what that is, and then once you do understand what the truth is, being able to actually just live in it, express it, and
Yes.
let that be what the world sees and understands about you. So we're going to dig deeply into that because, as we said earlier, it's not all going to be sunshine and roses. And sometimes we go through life and we're trying to show the world all of our greatness, but we're trying to hide all of the things that maybe are not so great. But in doing that, you're actually not being authentic because you are not going to be a perfect person. So starting to get comfortable with that and owning that is going to be the key. And that's all going to be part of learning what your truths are and how to stand on and live in those truths. So that's what's going to be coming up in the future.
But our first one, you missed, and it's going to be a strong one. Is transparency.
Yes.
Transparency. That is a that's going to be a hard one, because we fear people seeing right through us, right? And I know for me, it's big for me to say I'm going to be very transparent with you. And a lot of people say I'm going to be very transparent with you, but are they? We don't know. So talking about being transparent, what that looks like for you. How do you begin being transparent versus what you've done this whole time in terms of just talking to people and not letting them in?
Yeah.
So that's really a fear, letting people in. So I'm excited about that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. A lot more great stuff to come. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Ladies, this was fantastic. And we look forward to seeing you all in the upcoming episodes. So look for the information online, whether that's on Facebook or on YouTube. And until then, everyone take care. And we look forward to seeing you all soon.
Bye bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye
Bye,
now.
everyone.